Carla here, also known online as the Beer Babe, at Beer Babe.
My name is Mike. I am the Robin to Seacoast Beverage Labs Batman. Can be found on Twitter at Avo Meredith.
Hey, I'm Norman. I'm known online as the Beer Nut or Real Beer Nut on Twitter.
Hello, this is Sean Jansen from TwoBeerGuys.com.
Brian from Seacoast Beverage Lab, and this is the Seacoast Beverage Lab podcast. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is Brian from SeacoastBeverageLab.com, and this is the Seacoast Beverage Lab podcast for Monday, September the 9th, 2013. Episode number 49, guys. We are one away from the big 5-0. Can you stand it?
Oof.
Ooh.
Ooh, boy. Well, we have much beer talk to get through tonight, so we're going to get right to the chase here. Again, I'm Brian from Seacoast Beverage Lab, at Seacoast Bev Lab on Twitter, and I'm drinking the Space and Time Imperial Stout by Treehouse Brewing out of Brimfield, Massachusetts. And it just drips from my keyboard. Boo, I'm sorry. Okay, there's going to be a reason why I didn't get the beer for tonight. But
Norm got it.
I know, we have a special guest. Norm got it, but you brought it to him. Carla, what's going on?
Hi, I'm Carla Companion. I'm known online as the Beer Babe, at Beer Babe on Twitter. I run my own site, thebeerbabe.com, and I'm also a blogger for the Portland Press Herald up here in Portland, Maine. I am drinking a Rising Tide Calcutta Cutter, which is their Imperial IPA, enjoying it very much.
Nice.
Well,
how's that? Because it's a new beer. Going down good?
yeah, it's their newest. They brewed a tiny batch of it before, and now they've decided to bottle it. It's awesome. It's a really kick-ass double IPA. I'm enjoying it.
Awesome.
It's got a totally different profile than whatever they've done before, so I'm not sure if different hops or what, but I like it.
Speaking of kick-ass, Mike Meredith. Mike Meredith, at Mo Meredith on Twitter. Tonight I'm drinking a Newburyport Brewing Company Plum Island Belgian White. Ooh, someone did their homework. Nice. There's a reason for that. Normie.
Hey, Norman Miller. I write the Beer Nut column for the Metro West Daily News and the Beer Nut blog, and I'm known on Twitter as the Real Beer Nut. And I just cracked open a Newburyport Pale Ale. So, oof.
Oh boy, looks like me and Carla are the dodo heads in this one. But Sean, what's happening?
Distribution.
Yeah, no, what are you gonna do?
I'm Sean Jansen from TwoBeerGuys.com. I just cracked open a Greenhead IPA.
Ooh, we covered all three. Awesome. Well, there's a big reason why Mike, Norm, and Sean are drinking the beer they can get in their own state. It's because we have Chris Webb, co-owner of Newburyport Brewing Company out of Newburyport, Massachusetts. How's it going, Chris?
Doing well, guys. Nice to be here.
Well, now do you have a beer in hand as well?
I do. I also have Le Greenhead.
Awesome. Very nice. Very nice.
I'm at the brewery, so if I run out, I might go out and get some of the Joppa Stout.
Oh, nice. Exclusive. That's awesome. Well, I'll cut to the chase really quick for those that are listening. Tapes, you can catch all the show notes and all the contact info for Newburyport Brewing at sblpodcast.com. Tell your friends. Tell everybody you know, because we're talking about beer all week. It's a craft beer podcast for craft beer people. And we'll get to our little shout-outs later. I just want to hop right into Newburyport because, I mean, we're all big fans here. So I was wondering, Chris, could you just start from the beginning and how you got into the brewing game?
Yeah, I will. So my good friend is the head brewer at Smutty Nose, Greg Blanchard. Greg and I grew up together in Durham, New Hampshire. And
Nice.
so I've always been a big craft beer guy. I moved to Colorado in the early 90s. After I graduated from UNH, I went to be a ski bum, and that's where I first got my real taste of the good stuff out there with Fat Tire, etc., living in the mountains. And my buddy Bill Fisher, who plays trumpet in my funk band, he and I were home brewing. I knew there was a great brewery in Portsmouth. I lived in Newburyport for 10 years. I sort of turned 40, had a midlife crisis. I'm like, I love craft beer. I love Newburyport. Bill and I had been doing some home brewing. I thought about what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I didn't want to drive into Lexington and be, the 128 corporate guy anymore. I wanted to be, an owner. I wanted to be a part of something I could feel passionate about. So when I looked around, I said, there's a brewery in Portsmouth. There's one in Ipswich. There's one in Gloucester. Why isn't there a brewery in Newburyport? And so I went over to Bill's house. We were getting ready to watch the Bruins win the Stanley Cup in April of 2011.
Hey-o.
And I said, Bill, I'm starting the Newburyport Brewing Company. And he immediately said, I'm in. And we got pretty aggressive in home brewing. And what we found out pretty quickly was that we knew how to make a good beer, but we didn't know how to make a great beer. because we were just inexperienced homebrewers. He'd brewed more than I had, but we just didn't know. And it takes, as you know, about a month to make beer. So as we're doing our test batches trying to get the Newburyport Pale Ale right, we quickly realized we need help. So my dad, who had just retired from UNH as a professor, lives in Durham, and I went over to his house and I said, Dad, I'm starting the Newburyport Brewing Company. He goes, well, you got to meet my loan officer. He works for Dover Federal Savings Bank. He's a great loan officer. And I said, well, why do I want to meet a loan officer? I don't need a home loan. He said he's really into beer. So when you're starting a business, you meet anybody and everybody. And so we went to Mike Robinson's house. He lives in Nottingham, New Hampshire. Walked into his man cave, and if you walk into my man cave, you see a 50-inch screen TV, a nice leather chair, nice couch. You walk into Mike's man cave, and he's got about 150 first-place ribbons of all the awards he's won for homebrewing. He's been homebrewing for 17 years. He has over 200 recipes. Behind the medals were a Sam Adams Long Shot Award, his face on the banner of Sam Adams, for winning Best Beer in America. And he was New England Homebrewer of the Year. And so he said, Mike, you've obviously earned the right. These are the 3 beers we're looking for: Newburyport Pale Ale, a Plum Island Belgian White, and Greenhead IPA, big West Coast style IPA. So Mike turns around. He has a front-facing cooler with about 17 logs of beer in it that he's made in the last year. And he said, well, the white is the best beer I make. Basically, here it is. And we drank it, and we were like, wow. He said, IPAs and Pale Ales, I make them all the time. Just basically tell me what you want in terms of characteristics, color, aroma, flavor. So he said, all right, Mike, we want Pale Ale to look like this, the IPA to look like that. He goes, come back in a month. Came back a month later. Bill and I, my partner, we had gone to Leary's in Newburyport and bought every beer that we possibly could compete with in the marketplace, from Dale's Pale Ale to Racer 5, Lagunitas, Allagash, and we did a taste test, and Mike's beer was as good or better than any beer in the market. So we looked at Mike and said, how'd you like to be a partner and join up with us? And he said, I'd love to. And that was at the spring of 2012, and he joined us December of 2012. We moved into our building in December. We brewed our first batch on Valentine's Day this year, and now we're already looking to expand because it's going so well. So that's the long answer to a short question.
No, perfect.
Wow.
I mean, geez, that's
Awesome.
perfect. And it's such a cool timeline. I mean, coming from West Coast back to East Coast and doing that. Did Mike ever think of going big before you guys showed up? Was it even in his mindset, or was it just brewing great homebrew?
He worked at Red Hook about 9 years ago as a packaging guy, and he was probably making not very much money. He went and got a job to support his family. He has 2 boys that are about the same age as my girls. He's a 40-year-old guy like Bill and me. So I think that he had gotten approached by some people but never felt like they were the right fit. I think Mike's the kind of guy that he makes a great hot sauce. He makes salsa. He's just a passionate sort of a scientist. I don't know if he would have ever gone off on his own. I'm not sure. You'd have to ask him. But I think all I know is he was very happy. In fact, what he said to us was, I've been waiting for you guys to walk in my door. So I think he had in his mind that he'd like to do it. I'm not sure if it would have happened on his own. I think he maybe needed a couple guys to kind of run the operation for him so he can be the scientist, and Bill and I can be the passionate beer lovers and try to really grow this thing into a decent brewery here in New England.
So I got a question for you. When you guys started to brew, did you go straight to knowing that you wanted to do cans versus bottles, or was that a deliberation? How did you kind of go? How did you come to that?
Yeah, we were always cans from the beginning for some of the obvious reasons. One is obviously it's better for the beer, it's better for the environment. Bill and I are big outdoorsmen. I mean, we love to ski, we love to hike, we love to fish. We're just outside a lot. That's our thing. So we knew we wanted canned beer. We're also branding Newburyport, and Newburyport, the Coast Guard was founded here. We're on the water. We're all kind of environmentalists. We're outdoorsmen. We're New Englanders. So we felt like cans were a great fit. So we never considered bottles. We always knew we were canning. People ask me all the time, like, is canning cheaper than bottles? We didn't even price out a bottling line at all. We knew we were doing a canning line, so I have no idea if it's cheaper or not. I will tell you that, as you know, it's more energy efficient, so it's cheaper to store and less expensive to ship. because it packs better and it packs lighter. But no, we were always about the can, and we went and we called up Luke from Baxter when we were starting this, and
oh, cool.
He was kind enough to spend a day with us, and I think we, in some ways we were looking to him because he was a pioneer, the first brewery in all of New England to can their entire line, and so once we knew we wanted cans, we spent time with him. He gave us the name of Cask, which is the canning line that we bought, and he's obviously was crushing it. So, people say, well, isn't craft beer already an overcrowded market? Like, why would you start another craft brewery? And Bill and I felt like there's more space for great craft beer, like really, really good beer, and I'll say more about what we're doing there, but also branding Newburyport, but I also felt in a can. I felt like at the time there was, Sierra was in a can, but Sam wasn't in a can yet, and besides Baxter, there wasn't a whole lot. Harpoon would can, but FX Matt was doing it. Wachusett hadn't bought their canning line yet, so I thought, well, this could be another chance for us to differentiate as well.
Yep. Cool. Go ahead, Norm.
I was just going to ask you if you could describe your beers for people who might not have had them before, because right now you're just in Massachusetts, if I remember correctly, so a lot of people might not have had your beer, so if you can describe them, that'd be great.
Yeah, definitely, Norm, thanks. The one that you're drinking is our flagship. That's the Newburyport Pale Ale. It's a single hop Cascade. We dry hop with Centennial. It's meant to be sessionable. It's 5.5% alcohol. It's meant to be hoppy. So I was a big fan of Dale's Pale Ale. I'm also a big fan of Sierra Nevada. So when we were thinking about our Pale Ale, we wanted something that was really hop forward, that would give people the nose that you don't typically get off a Pale Ale. I've had quite a few people say, "Oh, I love this IPA," before they realize it's an APA. But it's less alcohol. It's only single hopped. It's really meant to be very drinkable. So as Mike Robinson said, the way he described it, and I love this, he said, it's like ice cream. I could drink it all day. And in fact, like Ipswich has their big milk trucks, we're thinking about buying an old ice cream truck and putting our 3 can pictures on the side, and when we go to festivals, sell beer and ice cream out of there, since the Pale Ale is like drinking ice cream. So that's the first one. The second one is the Greenhead IPA. That's the beer that bites you back. That's the big West Coast style IPA, 7.2% alcohol. We use 4 different hops in the boil for that one, and we dry hop with Simcoe. That's got a darker caramel malt, as you may know if you've had it, but it's meant to be West Coast style, which means using West Coast style hops for the most part and a higher alcohol. Again, one of my favorites as a hop head. And our third beer is the Plum Island Belgian White. That's a traditional wit beer with the Belgian style yeast. There it is, Michael. Nicely done. That one, again, Mike, that's a coriander. That's the sweet Spanish orange, the lemon. That's the summer refreshing, citrusy, unfiltered beer that people really enjoy on a nice hot day.
And you have a stout. I think I tried at the Mass Brewers Fest a couple weeks ago. What is that?
Yeah, Norman. In fact, I'm at the brewery, and one of our cellarmen is transferring a beer and CIPing the brew house, and he actually mentioned you because I told him I was going on the Cinco's Lab. He said, "Oh, I met Norman, and I made sure he had some of the Joppa Stout."
I liked it. It was a good beer.
It's a good beer, yeah. So, quick funny story about the Joppa Stout. So when Bill and I were talking to Mike about starting this brewery with us, he had this cooler with 17 kegs of beer, as I mentioned, and one day I was over there drinking with him, and he said, "Hey, can you take a keg here? I got to get rid of some of this beer." And so I said, "Sure." He goes, "Well, take a stout." So I took a stout, I brought it home, and put it in my fridge in my basement. So a couple weeks later, I had a neighborhood party, and all my neighbors knew that I was starting a brewery. So I walk into the party with a keg of beer, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's Newburyport, right?" And I said, No. This is not sanctioned Newburyport beer. I've never had this beer. It's a stout that my brewmaster made. Like, slow down, because I didn't want my neighbors to be introduced to something that maybe wasn't perfect. I was just being like anal startup guy. So I pour the beer, and you can see it's pouring this dark, chocolatey, like stout. It just looks phenomenal going into those red silo cups with the white lining inside. Yeah. And I passed them out, and all my neighbors, we take drinks, and everyone's like, "Wow, this is really good." And I was like, "This is a sanctioned Newburyport beer."
Were they chasing it down with Miller High Life, though?
No, they were not. Probably. So we decided to when we decided to make another beer for the GABF, we wanted to enter some more beers into GABF besides our 3 core ones. We decided that the stout was a perfect fit because Bill and I had already had it. We knew we loved it. Mike was really proud of it. It's a dry Irish stout. It's 4.5%. It's very chocolatey. It's got a ton of flavor, but it's not too heavy, as you might remember, Norman. Yep. So we made it for the sole purpose of GABF, but we're calling it part of our 1635 series. Newburyport was founded in 1635, so our small batch Brewmaster series is called 1635, and we made one batch of it, so 20 barrels, 40 kegs. We kept most of it, or a bunch of it, here for the brew house, and then we shipped it out to a few bars.
Wouldn't it make sense if everything from the 1635 series was something was barrel aged in it? Because back then everything was all barrels.
That's a great point. We're talking to Privateer down in Ipswich to get some barrels from them, and as well as Mikey's doing some other. But yes, it would. We didn't in this particular case. I'm not sure we'll be that discriminating because we want to be open to different styles and collaborations. Mike actually made a barley wine that we're also entering into GABF.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's called Joppa Stout. What is Joppa?
So the Joppa Flats are these beautiful flats going out to Plum Island Beach. It's where a lot of clamming happens, and it's just the area of the estuary, I think, that goes from the Merrimack River out to Plum Island. And you're catching a theme here, which is we are trying to brand Newburyport. We're super proud of our city. It's the only Newburyport in the United States. So all of our beers are going to have some connection to Newburyport. And we just thought Joppa Stout kind of sounded like the right kind of a name for a really dark stout beer.
I think it's cool. I think it's also important to, like you said, kind of brand and make sure people are focusing just on Newburyport, because people think of beer, they think of Boston, or no offense, Carla, Portland, but there's beer going everywhere now. It's also good to focus on the seaside, like Gloucester, Newburyport, that area, because beer's going there too, and it's always good to have a name tied to a location. Pretty cool. What do you guys got? Anything?
Yeah, so there was a question. I think you've sort of asked it, and I think you've sort of mentioned it, but I want to know if there's So Brandon asked, what do you feel sets you apart from other craft breweries out there, with the large number of breweries starting up and the market becoming competitive?
That's a good question. Thanks, Sean. Every brewery would probably tell you that they're focused on quality and making the best beer possible, and we're no exception to that point. We have a 40,000-pound grain silo outside of our brewery, which I know, Sean, you've seen. It's full of Maris Otter, and Mike's position, and Bill and I agree, is that Maris Otter is the best base malt for beer, especially for the pale ale and the IPA. And I think we're the only brewery within 200 miles that uses it, or certainly one of the only breweries that use it, because it's expensive. But our position is, if you spend money on ingredients and you have good recipes and a good system to brew beer, that you'll make really good beer. So number one, we want people to say this is some of, if not the best beer they've had. That's really important to us. And we're not going to cut corners. We're willing to spend money. We're just not afraid to do that because we want people to love our beer, and we want to love it. We're picky. We're home brewers and we're passionate guys, and our names are behind this. So that's number one. Number two, I think the can and the branding of Newburyport is a little bit of a differentiator. I mean, cans aren't a competitive advantage to the extent that people can contract out to a brewery that makes cans, or they can buy a canning line. But I do think the idea of the Newburyport vibe, the outdoors, the beach, it's a music area, it's an arts festival. And then the third part is every six-pack, or at least the first batch did. I just ordered 30,000 new six-packs, or 30,000 new guitar picks. Every six-pack has a guitar pick in it, because I'm a guitar player. Bill and I have an 8-piece funk band. We have a stage outside here in the brewery with two stained glass windows looking into the brew house. So we're really trying to connect craft beer lovers and music lovers. And other breweries have done that too. That's not necessarily unique, but I think we are the first brewery in the history of the world to give out a guitar pick with every six-pack. Again, not necessarily a differentiator when it comes to the quality of the beer, but I think we're in the business of making people happy. through the vehicle of beer, and I think we're in the business of creating fun through the vehicle of music. And I want to have music every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. I actually have this dream, and I'll give it to you quickly. I want like up-and-coming bands to come to the brewery and make beer. I mean, imagine a coup band would be like if you could get the Dropkick Murphys to come, which would be hard to do, but let's just say the Dropkick Murphys, we could convince them to come up, or the Mighty Mighty Bosstones on a summer Friday at 2 o'clock. No one knows they're coming. We've got a 5-camera shoot. They walk into the brewery, and we go back to the brew house, and we brew the Dropkick Murphys Irish Red Ale. And everybody's bantering. They're bantering with the brewmaster and me and Bill. We're having fun. We're drinking. Then they come out to our tasting room where we have this professional power amp situation, and we do a little concert. They do like a live concert. Maybe Bill, my partner, gets up and plays trumpet. We bring some session musicians in, and it's basically your favorite bands, live like you've never seen them, brewing beer and playing with other session musicians, live from the Newburyport Brewing Company. So you could go to the website and be like, oh, I love that version of Shipping Up to Boston where Bill does that trumpet solo. It's sick. Or I love seeing the guys brewing beer and laughing. Because my position is people want to see their favorite musicians having fun and brewing beer and, you know, having a good time. So as a guy that lived in Somerville in my 20s that was trying to make it as a musician, although the coup band might be the Mighty Mighty Bosstones or the Dropkick Murphys, the real coup band would be to get some up-and-coming 20-somethings that are trying to be professional musicians to come and play at the brewery, record them live, and make it so that, you know, we have 7,500 Facebook fans. We're pretty good at marketing and promotion. If we could have some say in some young people that are fired up about music to become, more successful, that's phenomenal. So music's a big part of our brand. I don't know if it differentiates the taste of the beer, but it certainly is meant to enhance the experience of Newburyport Brewing Company.
I think that's awesome because you see beers that either are a name is attributed to the band, but that'd be very cool to have an actual band in your brew house brewing that beer, because that's way better than, I don't know, Pearl Jam had one with Dogfish, and you know,
Iron Maiden,
but they weren't brewing the beer. I guess Hanson has one, but let's not get into that. Yeah, let's not get into that. But those aren't rockers, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not kid yourself. But yeah, that's a very cool nod if you can get someone. So hey, if you're listening right now, hey, everyone that's in the chat, send a tweet out to Dropkick Murphys right now. Let's make this happen.
Yeah, I would love that.
We have nothing to do after St. Patrick's Day.
True.
Yeah, so instead of Yanni at the Acropolis, it's going to be live at NBPT.
No,
Yanni
think of
beer.
this, though. This is perfect because there really isn't any venue in between Boston and Hampton Beach that really showcases music on a large level. So Newburyport falls right in the middle of that. So honestly, I think that would be perfect, so I don't have to drive all over Christ Creation to see good music. And also, you guys could, you know, make it a whole day thing. I think that'd be awesome. And you know, spinning off of that, you've been, you know, talking a lot about community and the area and everything. What are some of some of the feedback you've gotten from the community? Because you know, one of the reasons you're on the show is because of Matt Forcier. You know, a little shout out to Matt. He introduced us. You know, and you know, basically said you got a strong vibe from the community with your brewery. And I'd just love to hear like some of like the feedback that you've had from the people of Newburyport for your brew.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. That's a great question. And if you come to the tasting room, you'll see that I talked to the local reporter from the Daily News, and he gave me about 15 old historic pictures of Newburyport that I blew up huge poster size and put them all over the brewery, because I want the tasting room and the brewery in general to be a showpiece system for the city. I mean, this is a little bit cliche, but I really do want this brewery to be the citizens of Newburyport's brewery, and I want them to be proud of it. And I think the way to be proud of it is to continue to try to make the best beer we can and to make the experience of coming to the brewery really positive. You know, I've been in this town for 10 years. I didn't grow up in Newburyport, so I'm not an official local, but my two daughters go to school here, and they're definitely locals, born and raised. And everyone, and I know a lot of people. I coach soccer. My wife's on the board of the soccer. I'm friends with a bunch of folks in town, and all of my friends have said, I love it and I'm proud. But what really makes me feel good is when strangers come up to me and they come to the brewery or they recognize me or see my brewer shirt on and they say, I love, in fact, this guy said it to me the other night, I love the fact that I can walk into a friend's house with a six-pack of Newbury Port, and everyone's just fired up because they're proud of it. So the overwhelming response I've gotten is we're proud of Newbury Port Brewing Company, and I think that's because the beer is pretty damn good. And I think our branding's been pretty good. Our branding guy is a 28-year-old kid from Salisbury, right next door. He's got a big-ass beard. He's in a band. His name's John Magnifico. You can't actually make that name up, John Magnifico. And he went to Mass School of Art. He worked for a big agency for like a year, and then he went off on his own. So he's been a phenomenal influence on Bill and me and Mike as we try to build this brand and make it fit the kind of beer that we're making and the kind of city that we live in. So overall, there have been absolutely zero negatives. I also give a shout out to the mayor and city councilors and the zoning and licensing commission because the city has been super pro-business. And having talked to other owners, I spent time with Drew, the CEO of Mayflower, and Luke at Baxter, and I talked to the CEO of Peak for an hour when I was doing their startup. And we've been, I think, fortunate in how pro-business the city of Newburyport has been.
That's awesome. And just from my experience, today I went and picked up, a six-pack of the Plum Island at where I usually do at Vin and Liquors, and 3 people made reference to the six-pack I had while I was in line. They're like, "Great beer, awesome beer." And then I went up to cash out at the register, and the woman behind the register, she's like, "Oh, I love this. I had this at Flying Saucer in downtown Salem, with a slice, and it was amazing. You're gonna love it." And I'm like, I'd already had it before, so I knew I was gonna love it. But that's just that's amazing to in like a 5-minute period to have like 3 compliments, just like right off the bat. So cheers to that.
Wow, that's humbling and exciting, Michael. I mean, you don't know how it's going to go. I mean, we are brand new. This is our 5th month, and Bill and I didn't come from money. My dad was a professor. I'm the youngest of 4 kids. Bill grew up in Maine. I mean, Carla, no one has money in Maine. I'm joking, but
hey, Carla.
Hey, it's true.
Carla, you take that?
So it's
the wage equality laws.
But Bill and I, we raised $1 million to start this brewery. We took a loan from the federal government for $350,000. We quit our day jobs. We both have wives and kids and mortgages, and I mean, we were both working. He was a director of marketing for a software company. I was the vice president of sales and marketing for a consulting firm. We had pretty good jobs for 40-year-old guys, and we basically quit and said, we're not doing this anymore. We're not going to be selling out. We're going to hustle and make it happen. And, I'm just thankful that 5 months in, you're getting that kind of feedback, Michael, because if not, I'd be looking for a job.
Yeah.
But it's humbling to have it go so well, and I think it's a testament to the fact that people, someone said to me once, it's 50% marketing and 50% beer, to the extent that if the packaging looks nice and they'll buy your beer, but if the beer's not good, they're not going to buy it again. And I think there's lots of great beer out there. I don't think ours is necessarily the best beer in the world, but I think the fact we're making a pretty darn good beer is the reason why you're getting those compliments, why we're able to stay in business, why we're excited about growing this brand and making Newburyport. My goal is to move Newburyport from we're sort of the hot local startup, and I want to move from the hot local startup to the regional player. I want to get into New Hampshire. I'm from New Hampshire. I want to get into Maine. Bill's from Maine, and Portland's a great beer drinking city.
And I'm going to Arkansas. And I'm going to Tallahassee.
Third episode in a row.
And I just spent 9 days in Oregon and California, and I cold called the CEO of Anchor Steam and said, "Hey, this is Chris Webb. I'm the co-founder and CEO of the Newburyport Brewing Company. I'm coming out to San Francisco." He called me back, and he gave me a tour and spent an hour with me in downtown San Francisco, and I went to Russian River and Beer Republic, and I think it's funny. I think California, in some ways, if we could meet the demand in Massachusetts, I'd love to have our second state be California, because I think.
That was fight words.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I just have a quick question. What is your current capacity and size right now? Like, where are you at? Are there plans for expansion? Just kind of, if you can give me a picture of where you're at.
So we're a 20-barrel brew house. We have 6 40-barrel fermenters and 2 40-barrel brights, which we are at full capacity right now. We're going to do 5,000 to 6,000 barrels in our first calendar year. So we're brewing 120 barrels a week. So 480 barrels a month, and that's the max that we can do with the 6 40s and 2 40 brights. So we're actually in the process of considering expanding and buying 3 or 4 80-barrel brights or fermenters, excuse me, and then 1 80-barrel bright. So we're at full capacity 5 months in, and so now it's time to look at what's the next step. So yeah, no, it's going really well. And just to piggyback on that California trip, so I walk into Bear Republic at like 9 o'clock at night. I've been driving all day with my wife and kids from Bend, Oregon, and I walk in with the 6-packs, the cans that we have, and I say, East Coast style beer, and all the brewers and everyone were just fired up because I think people want what you can't get, and there's great West Coast style beer in California, but there aren't a ton that I could see of East Coast style beers in California. So I shouldn't be saying this in this highly watched podcast.
No, I've been saying it.
I want all my competitors to get to California before me, but
it goes back and forth.
We're all on the New England soapbox.
Go!
Right.
They're all filling out the paperwork right now. They're like, sucker.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Normie, you got something?
Yeah, I was just drinking the Greenhead IPA right now, and I'm just curious what the hops are. It has like...
Look at that cat.
Yeah, there's a cat behind you, sir.
The cat is more curious.
Yes. The hops on the Greenhead: Falconers, Flight, Topaz, Centennial, and Columbus in the boil, and Simcoe in the dry hop.
Like I'm getting almost like the first sip, I'm getting like a little garlic every single time. Ooh. So I was wondering what that was coming from.
Your pizza.
Gotta clean the can off, Norm, before you do.
I wish I knew how long we were in this podcast.
Yeah, it was the cat on top of the can for half an hour.
That's the intro right there. We did it. Okay. Segueing into something else because what Norm eats is also relevant. No, but we also have a chat room, Chris, that we have 4 people joining right now. Like to give us questions, and Bruce and I must think alike because I was thinking to myself, you have a Belgian white in a can, and that's pretty extreme when it comes to cans. And I was thinking to myself, do you have anything else coming out in the future that you consider extreme? But we'll get to that later. But Bruce wanted to know, and if I had his question right in front of me, I would do it. Oh my God, I lost it. The chat room's talking so much that I lose the question.
I'll get it for you. So,
you got it?
So,
there, yeah, get it.
In addition to the short batch series that you guys are doing right now, do you guys have any plans in the near or far future for additional seasonal beers?
Yes, we do. Year one we felt like focus on 3 beers because we didn't know how well they would sell. We didn't want to assume that the retailer would want to take on more than 3 SKUs in their cold shelf or in their space. So we just wanted to get these 3 out the door and then do some small batch stuff just to be creative. So next year we're planning on 3 seasonals, a summer, some kind of a fall variety, and then some kind of a winter. So you should see 3 seasonals in cans in 2014.
Awesome.
Excellent.
But right now, the small batch series, it's only draft, and you can't get a growler of it either, right?
Well, you can get a growler. We want to be able to provide growlers here from the brewery of the small batch. We didn't have any growlers of the stout because, to be honest, we don't have enough money right now to build out a really nice cooler in our tasting room. So we bought 3 fridges from Best Buy for $100 each. And nice. You can only fit logs in those fridges. And so we only saved logs of the stout here, and we don't have a lot of logs. We have a ton of half barrels. So all the stout, we did a 20-barrel batch, and the majority of those we put in half barrels. So we just didn't have a ton of the Joppa stout in because it's in logs. So we didn't want to give growlers because, there's only, there would only be 10 growlers to a log, and we just felt like we'd run out of stout too early. So we decided not to let folks have growlers of the stout. But once we get a little bit more cash in the door, we're going to try to build a nice cold room or at least a cold bar where we can have half barrels, and then we will do stout in other Joppa or other 1635 series growlers. But for now, we're not putting in the 1635 in cans or even big bottles because we don't have that capacity to make big bottles yet. We just have a canning line and a keg line.
So you seem to be, you said it yourself, you're 5 months old. So I need to ask because we have a couple questions in here asking about future collaborations and seasonal beers and stuff like that. But you've put out 4 beers in 5 months. Do you see your focus stray from consistency if folks are asking you to brew different beers, or would you rather just focus on the beers you have at hand and kind of develop that baseline for the first year? What's more important to you? Would it be more beers or just consistency?
The latter for sure.
Okay.
Especially because we thought we're not on Cape Cod yet. So here we are, the hot new Massachusetts beer in a can, and we're not even on the Cape where people are out on the beach every day drinking beer out of a can or on their boat. This is a good problem to have. I'm knocking on wood, but we weren't able to get into Boston until about 6 weeks ago. We just got into Worcester 2 weeks ago. We're not in Western Mass, and we're not on the Cape. So the 1635 series was really about being creative and having something to enter into GABF. But mostly we're just trying to stay true to our core, our 3 beers, make them well, consistently repeatable, make sure that we can get them in the hands of the people that want to drink them. My partner Bill was down at Thin Ends, I think, in South Shore, and they wanted, they're trying to order 10 cases, and they're only giving them 3. So is it a good problem to have that everyone wants the beer and there's a scarcity issue? I guess so, but on the other hand, I think we're missing out on sales because people are walking in, I want to buy that beer, and they're saying, sorry, it's not available. So we don't want to do a lot of extra stuff for collaborations right now. We want to make them as much beer, as good, and as fast as we can.
Yeah, I'm seeing on Facebook and Twitter a lot where folks are always asking for more different, not more of the same, which I think could be a problem for a lot of breweries that start out thinking they have to make whatever people want, but as long as you stick to your values and what you like, it'll go to prove that you don't have to keep doing different beers as long as you hit the home runs with the 3 cans you have,
Yeah.
But I don't know.
You can't please everybody, and to buy cans, you guys got to come to the brewery and see. We've got 10,000 to 20,000 cans at a time that you buy. So to think that we could just buy, and get the federal government to approve the label and do all this work, it's a pain in the butt.
Now, Chris, just 5 months in though, right? You signed with the distributor early on, which is rare for startup breweries, and then you're across a wide margin of Massachusetts. How many draft accounts do you have right now?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't have the number right in front of me, but I would guess between 75 and 100. We have quite a few. Our distributor has been great. The Mass Bev Alliance has been phenomenal, and every bar in Newburyport for the most part has the beer on draft, and up and down the North Shore. And we just got put on a Jerry Remy's down in the waterfront.
Nice.
Wow.
Of Boston, which is huge for us. They go through 40 or 50 kegs a month. They just put the greenhead on, which is amazing. I've been in Cambridge and Somerville driving around, and we did a Bukowski's had a tap takeover. We had all of our beer at Bukowski's. Tommy Doyle's in Harvard Square has our beer, so it's been really well received.
Nice. We had a question from the chat. Sorry.
No. Just following that up though, how does that match with the original business plan?
Oh well, we're double what we expected sales wise. We did not expect to do 5,000 or 6,000 barrels in our first year because we're new, and we didn't, we just didn't assume that we would be that successful. I think Baxter, which was in Maine and Massachusetts, I think Golden Road out in L.A., those are the 2 that I know for a fact did over 5,000 in their first year. I think there's been 1 or 2 others, but Baxter's only, 3 years old, and Golden Road is 2 years old, so we've doubled where we thought we were going to be.
So cool.
And I know it's a testament to, I think, Mike making great beer, and I think people love Newburyport, and I think our distributors have done a really good job, and people in Massachusetts were psyched about good beer, so and New Hampshire, quite frankly, coming down.
I guess a theme we see, we've had about approximately, I think you might be our 30th brewer on here off the check, but we've had a number of brewers on, and they consistently say the same thing, that the brewing community is oddly supportive for being competitive. How have you seen your fellow breweries take Newburyport? Have they been helpful?
It's unbelievable. Like I said, Luke spent a day with us. John Cadu from Peak spent an hour with me, and John even said when he started up that somebody spent a lot of time with him, and he said when I get that call, I'm gonna take it and pay it forward. And he specifically said that to me. Drew, who owns Mayflower, also spent a day with me just on a kind of a cold call. As I said, the CEO of Anchor Steam, not that they're thinking we're competition for them, spent an hour with me 2 weeks ago. It's unbelievable, this community. And I'm not from I didn't work at a brewery. I'm a relatively inexperienced home brewer. I'm just a passionate guy who loves beer and is excited about Newburyport. So I cannot believe how great it's been. And you hear rumors from people that there are some people out there that will say nice things in front of you and then not stab you in the back, but that they're going, oh shit, this guy's he's trying to steal my market share or take my money or take food off my table or whatever. I haven't felt any of that. I felt nothing but generosity and open arms. And what it tells me is that most of the people that start breweries or brew beer are really good people, good at heart, and it also makes me want to pay it forward. And I've already spoken to a guy. He's not in Massachusetts. He's in Tennessee, sort of a friend of a friend, and I just spent an hour on the phone with him saying, here's what I learned. Here's how I did it. Here's how we did it. If that's helpful to you, God bless.
Awesome. We're running short on time because we don't want to take much of your time, but Sean had mentioned something in the chat room before. You were recently, or Newburyport Brewing Company in total was recently at the Beer Bloggers Conference in July. Were you there? I forget.
No, I wasn't there. We sent Mike down there, our brewmaster.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Of course. Yeah, and I wanted to know what it was like to do a speed dating with beer, but that question is best reserved for Mike. But it was a pretty fun time, and what's good about a place like that is you have kind of the folks that spread the word in their towns. And I don't know about you, Sean or Carla or Norm. I was sitting at a table with folks from Portland and West Coast, but it's good.
Colorado.
Yeah. So there's no better place to be for you guys, especially starting out as early as you did, just to be spreading the good word, because they're going to spread the word to their folks, and so.
Brian, it's unbelievable. So I'm at Russian River, right? I'm in the brew pub there in California, and I walk in. It's the middle of a sunny day, and I order a Pliny, and I'd already been emailing back and forth with the CEO, trying to see if Vinny would take a few minutes to spend with me, but they just had a fermenter delivered the day that I was there, and so he didn't have any time. But I'm talking to the bartender, and I said, hey, I'm Chris Webb. I'm from Newburyport Brewing Company. Here's my card. I'd love to buy a T-shirt. And this woman sitting at the bar goes, Newburyport Brewing Company? And I'm like, what? She was from New Orleans. She's like at the head of the beer blogging in New Orleans in Louisiana.
Nora?
Yeah, Nora, I think,
Nora
right?
D. Nice.
Yeah. She's like, I just was at the beer blog at Burke, and I love your beer, and I love you guys.
That's awesome.
That's so great.
Oh my God, this is unbelievable. Like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, by the way, in the middle of a sunny day in Russian River, and I'm thinking, no one knows who the F Newburyport is.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
You met a New Orleans beer blogger at Russian River talking about how she's had and loved your beer. That's awesome.
Right.
Man, full circle. Hands across America right there, am I right? A couple breaks in the chain. But,
and cheers to Nora, too. She's doing great stuff in the New Orleans beer scene. So,
Sean, do you want to...
Sure.
Want to take it away?
So, typically at the end of the show, we've been sort of just posing a question out there. I'm sure you get the question now often from other people, and it's probably a question that you've actually asked other people. And what would you give for advice for someone that wants to set up their own brewery in this market right now?
Yeah, great question. Well, I think the first thing I would say to anybody that wants to do it, go for it. If you're passionate about it, make it happen. I think there's 2,500 breweries approximately and 1,500 in planning. That's okay. That's fine. We've only got 10% of a $100 billion industry, and it's time to continue to take down the big guys. So the first thing I would say is, if you're passionate about it, go for it. Second thing I would say is go big. Go big. If you don't have the money, the government is loaning money. We got $350 from Georgetown Savings Bank and SBA, Small Business Association loan. We did raise money through accredited investors. That's not private equity. That's just people that happen to have done really well in the world that are willing to give you a little bit of money to help you get going, and you give a little bit of equity. Don't be afraid to give up a little bit of equity to get some money to go big. I follow Tony Lagunitas T, and he had a really interesting.
It's a good account to follow.
Yeah, he had a really interesting thing.
He spices it up every day.
Yeah, that guy's
My
on
lord.
fire. He said, look, he said two things recently that I thought were interesting, or at least two that are stuck in my brain. One is he said every pint or every six-pack of Blue Moon or Shock Top that's being bought, and it's 10 million barrels or something ridiculous, is an opportunity for craft beer. So that tells me a lot. He goes, I also don't know a craft beer that's meeting the demand right now. We're not meeting the demand. 5 months in, we're looking to double expansion. And, if you talk to almost any good brewery, they're in a position where they can't meet demand or they're trying to grow. So I think if you're out there and you want to do it, I would say, don't worry, because I think there's going to be a demand for your beer as long as you're making great beer and you're passionate and working your ass off. I mean, it's 80 hours. I have 3 or 4 nights a week I'm out. I leave Newburyport at 5 o'clock on a Thursday to drive into Boston. It's about the last thing I feel like doing at 5 o'clock after working since 7 in the morning. But then I get down to Boston, and there's 80 people that want to talk to me and drink our beer, and I'm just energized, and I love it. And I drive home at midnight, and yeah, I'm tired, but it's amazing. So if you think you're passionate, get it done.
It's a great answer, and I think there's a lesson to be learned by you guys as well. Is you never know who's at your farthest reach. Because Mike was just sitting there on his couch waiting for you guys to come over to him to make beer for you guys. So you found Mike out of happenstance. So maybe someone that's starting to plan a brewery will find someone else as well.
Yeah, and maybe the person that wants to start the brewery doesn't feel like they need a brewmaster, but maybe they need somebody to help them run the business, or someone to help them market it or sell it, or there's so many people that you need to make this engine go.
Exactly.
So don't be afraid to pull in your friends and family, and you've got a lot of people in your network. I mean, the guy that started LinkedIn wrote a book, and I read an article in Fortune magazine about it, and he said, look, most of us tend to congregate in groups of 150. So like Army troops are 150. Most people sort of Facebook friends, maybe it's more than 150, but you could probably count on average, 150 people that if you called them up, if I called up Norman and we were friends, he would take my call, right? Well, each of us has... I
can call you now, and I just met you.
You might not, Norman, but I know Michael would, and I bet Carla would.
And it's second.
People from Maine are nice. So think of it this way. It's the power of 3, which is to say, if my brother John called me and said, you need to meet my friend Nick, I would absolutely talk to Nick. If my brother John called me and said, hey, Nick's got a buddy named Mark, would you take his call? I might be like, what? I'm confused. So the power of 3. So if you have 150 people in your immediate network, and we have the power of 3, how big do you think your total network is? Anyone want to throw a number out there?
Mike's good with numbers.
Go ahead, Mike.
8 million? I'm not sure. I had one too many, so.
No, it's. I know it's kind of funny, but it's 65,000. You would never tap into that much, but the point of that story is our network is bigger than we think, and the way we did it when we needed some capital was we didn't necessarily know a lot of people that had money, but we knew people that knew someone that had done well and was willing to invest in us and believe in us, and we were able to raise $1 million in about 6 months, which I thought it was going to take a lot longer than that.
Well, Jesus, Chris, you have been one of the finer guests that we've had in the past couple episodes. I want to thank you for coming on. I mean, I hope you had a good time chatting, drinking. But
Yeah.
you can find out more info for those that are listening and watching. You can find out more at NBPTbrewing.com. Obviously, all the links are in the show notes for you, so you don't have to go stray too far. But you got Facebook, Twitter, all their events that are going on, and all their beers. Does anyone else have any shout-outs to go on? They want to give a quick hey-o to? Oh, Sean's got a couple. Hang on.
I do have a couple. So first off, I didn't do it last week. So.
Oh boy.
No.
Bad.
Well, while you're looking it up,
I got it right here. Look.
He has
Take a look at my picture.
Go ahead.
At the Mass Brewers Guild Festival.
Yeah.
I met Marco, who also goes by The Professor. he listens to the show every week, and I forgot to add him in as a shout out last week, and so I apologize for that, Mark.
Nice.
And
He stopped listening last
we were
week.
actually talking about which one was favorite shows, and it's kind of funny when you talk about favorite shows with someone else. It's like, wow, people are actually listening to it. So
Yeah, that's
But at the same time, I wanted to give a shout out to North Shore Beer Week. It's starting this Saturday to the following Saturday. It's going to be a little bit smaller than it has been in the past years. More of a grassroots effort this year. There's an event that starts off. There's a couple events on this Saturday, and then it ends with the Amesbury Brew Fest at the Amesbury Sports Park, which usually has about 4,000 to 5,000 people. But this Saturday, if people are around, there's a couple events actually close to between Newburyport and Ipswich, and we hope to see a whole bunch of people at them. So check out the website, northshorebeerwk.com.
Big fan. Oh boy, it's happening already.
Also, just this weekend, there's a couple other beer festivals. Belgian Beer Fest I'm going to on Saturday, and at the same time, Samuel Adams and Beer Summit's hosting the annual Oktoberfest at the Castle in Boston. That's always a good time. Unfortunately, they were, going against each other, so I had to pick one. But I really like the Oktoberfest event too. So if you don't have Belgian Beer Fest tickets, that might be a good event to go to.
It's a good time. Sean's got a photo going up, I think.
Hold on.
Well, anyway, we had the New England Homebrew Jamboree last weekend, and one of our big listeners, BN Darkside on Twitter, aka Steve Mayo, won a couple awards. So there's a picture of him right there. Big shout out. Look at that! Look at those medals.
Look at all those medals.
So raise a glass to Steve. Thanks, buddy. You're a good listener, and look at him. He's apparently a good brewer. So folks,
killing it.
It's like Michael Phelps on the brew scene there.
Yeah.
But this weekend you can find Carla and me and Carla have you at the Passport event in Strawberry Bank and Portsmouth, New Hampshire.
Yep, fundraiser for New Hampshire Public Television, sold out everything. I'm trying to get a hold. Brian and I both are looking for tickets for people that we know. But in general, just a really awesome event. Gets better every year, and they get sold out quicker every year too. So I invite a lot of friends, and they don't always buy tickets when they should. So
usually with events like that.
If you guys haven't gone, it's an event in which local Portsmouth restaurants are paired with a specific brewery to make a beer and food pairing, and it's on the grounds of Strawberry Bank, which is a really cool outdoor living history museum. So you kind of walk around the grounds and try all these different things. I always leave feeling incredibly full, but like totally happy. Like,
you can see Scott from Great Rhythm there this year.
Yep, and they're going to be paired with Wim out of Portsmouth. So totally exciting.
It's one of those events where if my wife there's events where if my wife can't go, I'm like, all right, I'll go to the next one. But this one I'm like, sorry, I got to go to this one because I'm a big fan of the Passport.
Passport kicks butt. I really dig it. So
big fan. But anyone else have anything else? Scott, do you have anything going on that you want to give a shout out to for your beers? Any events coming up?
Oh, you mean me, Chris?
I'm sorry. What did I say?
Scott, get out of here, Brian. Damn it, Scott.
I look like a Scott. Scott's
Brian's, you're fired.
I'm hammered, Brian.
I think
what I was going to say is, if you're in the Worcester area, we're doing a tap takeover at Beatniks, and my partner Bill and I have an 8-piece funk band called Dos Pintos. And I met the owner of Beatniks, and she said, I would love to have your band come down. So Dos Pintos,
it's a really cool place.
Tap takeover at Beatniks in Worcester on Saturday night. But I was going to say Brian and Carla and Michael and Norman in particular, because I know Sean, we've hung out a bunch, and since I haven't really hung out with you guys, feel free to reach out to me directly. You've got my contact information. Come down and visit us. I would love to have a beer with you. I'm happy to answer any more questions or hang out, and it's important to be a part of the community, and it's awesome to meet you guys. I appreciate you inviting me.
Awesome.
Well,
thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it.
And don't order nachos because we'll just steal them.
Oh boy, inside jokes. Come on now. But hey, we want to raise a glass to you guys and Newburyport Brewing Company for doing great beer and a geez, you're still young, but a everlasting future. Cheers, guys.
Thanks, Brian.
Cheers.
Thanks, Michael.
And we'll
Cheers,
see you
guys.
next week. Next week we got
50th show.
50th show, so get ready for it. Okay.
5-0.
Oh.
Bye.